Hang tight, hang tight, hang tight. We're just waiting, baby. Connect your stream to go live. We're just waiting. Hang tight. We will be live shortly. And it looks like we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to SipTalk. My name is Justin DeJulio, joined by James, the Bosniator Boswell, philosopher, philanderer, philatelist, phlebotomist, flamingo enthusiast, a man of many PHs. How's that phlegm hanging this allergy season down there in sunny South Carolina?
Nice and cleared out. Got 11 miles on the bike ride before the cast, so
Yeah, I got
respiratory
I, I
system
got a
is.
I got a good workout in too. So I tried to hydrate before we started. I intend to drink a lot of American whiskey, American bourbon tonight. How are you feeling on the bourbon front?
I felt like for July 4th, we had to pick an American spirit, and I wanted to get like one of the various 250th anniversary editions of all these different bourbons out there. I couldn't find any at the liquor store, so I ended up picking Evan Williams Single Barrel.
I
And
I'm in that boat. I'm in that boat as well. I was looking for that 250th anniversary bottle of the Evan Williams. Couldn't find it. Didn't even know what I was talking about in the liquor store. So,
you
but
can
either way,
find it on the interwebs, but by the time like the weekend ended, I was like, "There's no way that it's going to get delivered before the cast." So
so here we are on the precipice of the 250th birthday of our great nation. Some might say it's a doomed nation. We'll get there in a little bit. But we got some holiday themed all American cocktails with an all American spirit like Evan Williams, like Jim Beam, like uh, Jack Daniels. But Evan Williams is actually a fan favorite of both James and mine, as in we are fans. We're going to make some cocktails in just a minute. I'm going to light my little lantern here just for the mood light here.
I would consider Evan Williams to be a friend of the cast.
I think I think you and I often are. Let's see if we get this little candle thing in the wind. I think you and I are big Evan Williams fans. I think it's a great bourbon for the price. It's a great mixer. I That's what I use it mostly for, is mixing. Oh, this one might be a little too hot. I use it mostly for mixing, and I actually, part of my plan today was to get a nice crystal decanter and lay it on here, and then bring in the bottle and say, this looks so nice in the decanter. If I was to serve it to you, you'd be so pleased. You'd ask me what it was, and when I told you it was Evan Williams, you would be in disbelief. So Evan Williams is actually one of my go-to bottles to fill decanters, because when people drink it, especially as a mixer, they love it. It's a very neutral mixer. It's not too peaty like a Scotch. It's not too super sweet. It's just an all-American bottle. It's a great bottle. So I'm happy to finally be getting into this bottle on tonight's cast. You've got a drink ready to go. So if you're watching
Yeah.
on YouTube, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on Facebook, follow Justin and Julie on those platforms, and you can watch James make this all American cocktail. I'm going to make kind of my own spin on it. But what do you got?
All right, so we're making a mint julep tonight. I just thought that this is a classic American drink, and it's also really simple. 4 ingredients. You got your bourbon, you've got ice, you've got mint, and sugar. That's all you need. There are other recipes that'll call for soda water or lime. That's unnecessary. If you do this drink right, you just need the 4 ingredients. And there are two keys to this drink.
I
The
know I was
first,
going to say that.
huh?
I was just going to say that there is one key, and that has to do with one of the ingredients.
So the first key is your ice. You want crushed ice. So before we got on the cast, I was in the kitchen with a hammer, and you can see that I've got ice of all sorts of different textures and stuff in here. This is what you want, because you want some ice to be left in the glass, but you also need some ice to melt down and help water down the bourbon.
Because the mint julep is, you just said you weren't going to add any seltzer water. I'm adding a
No,
little seltzer to mine. The mint julep is a strong drink without that melted ice. So you're usually using not shaved ice, but uh, a very small piece of ice, or
well, and you
crushed
can
ice would
see
be top
I've
there.
got some stuff that's crushed up pretty finely, and then I've got other stuff like bigger cubes. And you want the various textures of ice in this drink, because if you make it with ice that is too shaved and too crushed, it's going to water down way too fast, and you're going to have a weak drink. And if you use ice that's too big, it's not going to water down enough, and you're going to have a drink that just tastes like gasoline.
Dude, I'm on the edge of my seat for you to make this because I'm ready to open my bottle of Evan Williams. Evan
So
Williams, by the way, is my go-to for old fashions. Everybody knows I'm a really big old fashioned fan for some reason. And I mean, I got a whole bunch of whiskeys behind me. Evan Williams is always my go-to for the old fashioned.
all right, so that's your first step is make sure that you have the ice and you have it crushed up right. Next thing is you want mint, and you're going to want a good bit of mint. And you're just going to take all the different sprigs, you're going to pull the leaves off, and you're just going to do this. I should have prepped the leaves ahead of time so that this would go faster, but
I've got my mint right here, ready to go.
it
I
is
didn't touch my
tough
leaves.
to overdo it on mint. It's just, man, all these leaves are small on this package. I'm used to like mint having like nice big bushy leaves.
Well, I plant mint outside of the house, and I went and grabbed some. I realized the June bugs, these little nighttime beetles, have really usually mint is something that wards away insects and chipmunks and squirrels and mice. But these June bugs have really done a number on my mint. So finding some nice mint was tough today.
I should be growing some mint because like it's super easy. It's basically a weed.
It is, yeah. I mean, it overtakes everything. So okay,
Um,
so you got your mint in there, but you should
and
have
so I
de-leaved in
said
advance.
there are
But
two keys to this drink. The first is having the ice that's at like the various different textures and sizes. So that way you have a drink that waters down a little but not a lot. The second is how you prepare the mint, because it's very easy to screw this up and there's a delicate balance that you want. So that's probably enough mint for now.
all right.
So you can see we've got a pretty good amount of mint in the bottom of the shaker. Now you're going to take sugar and you're going to use a fair bit of sugar.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sugar in my drinks, but a mint julep,
You have to have it.
it has to be. It can't be
So
too super sweet, but it needs a good amount of sugar.
so give it a little bit of a shake, and then with the muddler, you need to use a light touch here, where you want to bruise the mint leaves to get the oils out of the leaves, but you don't want to go so hard that they start to shred and fall apart. You want the leaves to be mostly intact, and so it's kind of a gentle. You're just mashing. You're trying to get the sugar to bite into the leaves, but you don't want any of the leaves to fall apart. And a good way that you can tell if you're doing it right is if you smell the shaker and it smells nice and strong of mint, and you can check and see, and you can't see what I'm seeing, but like all the leaves are still intact, they're just a little beat up. So now we take that whole mess, put it on top of the ice, and now I always eyeball this, but I'm going to see how this ends up. You're probably going to be looking at about 3 whole shots of bourbon in here.
3 whole shots of bourbon, and you bought a 750 of Evan Williams today.
Yep.
Oh, do you usually buy the 750s?
Single barrel only comes in
Oh,
750.
you did get the single barrel. I got the well, I don't know what it is, the straight bourbon whiskey, their low end bottle.
So 3 shots looks to be about right.
Let's see how
So,
this shakes up.
huh?
Let's see how this shakes up. Go for it.
Yep. And so then, and I'm going to stand up for this part, but you want to give this a really good shake, good 30 seconds or so.
All right, you guys on TikTok.
And you want this part. If you can get this part to frost, you've done it right.
Yeah, the nice thing about using a metal shaker is when you are shaking a drink, you do get that nice, what they call in Dominican Spanish, vestida de novia, the dress of the bride, and you get this nice white frost on the outside of that.
Yeah. So I got a little bit of frost on the top shaker. That means the job is done. And then I really like the Hefeweizen glasses for serving because they're nice and tall and they display it well. And you just pour the whole mess in there.
Interesting. All right, so let's see how's it shake out.
We're gonna find out.
You can throw a straw. You can throw a straw in there. Uh-oh.
I will, but I'm gonna take a sip of it first. Might have overdid it. Like the mint shredded up a little bit more than I was expecting on the shake, but
I've got a plan for that in my drink over here. and I'm no bartender, so I'm sure bartenders are really going to look down while I make my cocktail. How is it?
Came out great.
So you got 3
I'm
shots.
actually going to give it
Roughly,
a.
how much
I'm going to
sugar
give
did
it a
you use?
float of bourbon on top. But yeah, it watered down to so now it's a sweet and minty drink, and yeah, it's boozy, but you do not feel it. Like it doesn't come off harsh.
I did get my balls busted for this lantern over here, but I did. I don't know if you can see it. I got to move over a little more. I did turn the flame way down. So, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and make something similar here. If you'll have me, I have got, and actually I like doing this with doers. I like this with scotch, but because today is an Evan Williams day, I'll go ahead and open my Evan Williams. All right, let's see. All right, there is a seal, but I'm just gonna shred that seal. So, like I said, I've got some mint. I did rinse the mint beforehand. I'm gonna pull the leaves off, not to be too
What's
picky
the name
here.
of the drink you're making?
It's very similar, but like I said, I usually do it with scotch. Mine is just messier and faster and easy to make. So I've got a couple of pieces of mint in here. I'm gonna throw in a couple of these nice sugar cubes. I got a brown one, a white one. I'll throw in another white one there. These are like rough cut sugar cubes. They just look, I don't know if you can see them, but they just look, they're non-square, and they just look cool. They look a little nicer. And then I'm going to take my Evan Williams and just go right on top. I'm not going, well, let's see. Now, I like doing this with tiny little pieces of ice. I'm not putting any ice in. Now, what I'm doing differently than you is I'm going to obliterate my mint, fully incorporate it. And the reason is I just really want to crush the sugar and incorporate the sugar. And I don't think this is on camera. So let's see. Get over here. So I'm just modeling the shit out of these sugar cubes and that mint. I am doing some damage to the mint, and this is where yours and mine is a lot different. But I want this sugar to really dissolve. So I'm giving it a good mix.
Now, one thing that I could do differently with this drink is I could also double strain it over and basically have the whole shaken mix that I poured into this glass. I could double strain that out and then pour it over fresh rocks in
Well,
a
here we
new
go.
glass.
Watch. So watch this. I got my rocks here, my rock. And what I am going to go ahead and do is now, like I said, I would usually just fill this up with crushed ice all the way to the top because the ice is going to melt. So this is not exactly what I normally go for, the big rock. I like the crushed ice because it's going to water it down a lot. You're going to see how I'm going to account for that here. So I actually am using the strainer. So I'm just going to mix this up. This is going to pull out all that gross mint, as you can see. Now, this is basically straight whiskey. I think I said scotch a second ago. This is straight whiskey. By the way, for those of you who don't know the difference, scotch is whiskey from Scotland. That's really the only difference.
Well,
And
no, there's a bunch of
well,
differences.
yeah, true, but that's the major difference. I
No,
am
the
going.
major difference is that Scott is mostly going to be a barley and wheat um, base, whereas bourbon must
Well,
be at least 51% corn.
I didn't say bourbon. I said scotch and whiskey. But yes, that's the difference between bourbon and whiskey. So I'm just taking a fresh mint sprig, and then I am going to add some seltzer because this is just straight bourbon. So I'm adding roughly a quarter of it as the seltzer, and I'm going to give this a little stir here. This is seltzer. This is my minty bourbon mix, and like I said, I usually do this with scotch. So I'm going to give this a shot here. I thought the straw would work. Oh, I like this. I like this with bourbon. It's got a zing. It's definitely sweeter than the scotch. It needs to be colder. That's the biggest thing. Is these are cold. A mint julep. Mine is not a true mint julep. A mint julep is one of those drinks you drink when you go to the racetrack or when you're sat out under the sun. It's kind of like a hoity-toity pinkies up type drink. It's really not, but
No, but
that's
it
usually
needs to
where
be
it's served.
crackingly cold.
It needs to be, yeah, it needs to be super cold. So
Like the fact that I got the shaker to freeze on the outside, that's how cold it
oh
needs to
yeah,
be.
mine. Like I said, mine is usually poured over crushed ice. I'm going to go ahead and say that that this is a great drink. I again would do it my normal way with scotch, with a light scotch, and over crushed ice. The biggest thing with this one is it doesn't have crushed ice. So today's topic is just basically American whiskey, Evan Williams. We don't have a whole hell of a lot more to talk about other than the fact that the country is the most divided it's probably ever been in the history of the country, and it is our 250th birthday as a country. So we got that going on for us. We can get into that if you guys want. We're really just kind of here to have a drink and shoot the shit. So,
Well, real quick, what are you doing for the 4th?
well, we got plans to go to Disney the following week, so we really had no plans. I was going to have a couple of people over, but it was very last minute, so it's going to be a relaxing 4th of July. I may go out to Long Island and visit my friend Adam, who's been on this podcast before. So that'll be a nice little day trip. But just kind of hang. I think we're going to the pool tomorrow. I was going to go into the office on Friday the 3rd, but it sounds like Friday the 3rd is when the 4th of July is being honored this year. So banks will be closed. Business is not going to happen. And in New York, it was 105 today. It is miserably hot here. The heat, I spend most of my time in the office, and I've learned to pretty much adapt pretty well with the heat. The problem with New York heat and South Carolina heat, so temperatures are very similar. The humidity is very similar, but in New York, we spend a lot. Like for example, even though the train is supposed to be air conditioned, even though a lot of times you get on the train and it's not air conditioned. I'm talking about New Jersey Transit. Oftentimes the subway is not air conditioned either, and it's standing room only. Um, and there's just a lot of walking. My parking lot is a half mile from the train station entrance. So by the time I get to the train station entrance, I'm already soaked. And then you got to get on the train, which may or may not have air conditioning, and stand. So you're just shoulder to shoulder with other sweaty
Do
people.
you bring a change of clothes?
I have been advising people to bring changes of clothes as a real estate broker, advising the agents to bring changes of clothes. I almost brought a change of clothes today, but I just came in for a class. I sat in the air conditioning, and it was what it was. And that
Well,
also a nice thing that is to have have always had a gym membership near my office, so I could always slide out for a shower, if I really, really needed to.
so the thing about when it gets super hot in New York City versus it being super hot in South Carolina, it was actually hotter in New York today than it was down here
I believe that.
by a good bit. Like we were probably like 95 to 98 here. 105 is a different world. But South Carolina, at this point, everywhere has air conditioning, and the
Yeah,
air conditioning works because it is hot so much longer and so much more of the year in South Carolina that you just can't live in a house or run a business without functioning air conditioning. Like if your air conditioning goes out, that's an emergency.
yeah,
Um,
and air
and so,
conditioning.
but in New York City, air conditioning is not as standard. And also, the buildings weren't built with heat in mind. And if anything, the buildings were built to keep heat
The
in.
buildings, the buildings were definitely in New York City built to keep heat in because the owner of the building pays for the fuel for the boiler to heat the building. So the better insulated the building is, the more it is likely to keep heat, the less money the owner has to pay in utility
Yeah.
expense, fuel expense.
Whereas in South Carolina, going back as long as like there's been people living in South Carolina, buildings were built with the heat in mind. And so even some of the oldest houses here that are 2, 3, 400 years old um,
Are
were
built to stay
built.
cold.
Yeah, we're built to have good ventilation and to be livable because air conditioning is a relatively recent invention, and so any new construction is going to be built with AC in mind. And old construction was built to at least ventilate the house, and it wasn't too hard to incorporate air conditioning into that.
Oh
And
no! In the
so,
South, you have higher ceilings above a lot of your doors. You have a window that opens to allow airflow through. The South is built differently than the North. But I'll tell you something. I don't know if you heard this. I have not seen it. I have not confirmed it, but I've heard it from a couple sources that the mayor of New York City has mandated that air conditioners be set to a minimum of 78 degrees. Did you hear this?
no,
No, you
it
didn't hear it, or no, I heard it wrong.
you heard it wrong. it so Mamdani sent out a tweet advising people to try and set their air conditioning to no lower than 78 to help make it so that like the demand on the power grid was not too much. And he immediately got shit from Ted Cruz about it. And the thing is, like in Texas, they've sent out very similar, if
Water.
not exactly the same
Yeah.
messages of like, hey, keep it to like 78 because like the strain on the power grid's really high today. So
Well,
like first of all, it wasn't a mandate. It
well,
was
that's
a
why I said this is what. And so, listen, when I talk politics, actually when I talk a lot of things, I don't. I try not to. I try to steer away from definitive language because at this point it's hearsay. But I actually, as providing it's not a mandate, it's a reasonable request. The strain of the power grid is a real thing. People in the majority of America don't understand that. They just think that water is on demand, heat and air conditioning is on demand. Food just shows up at your doorstep via DoorDash and Uber Eats. And that's not the reality that the rest of the world lives with. Not even the rest of the people in this country, where you have water shortages in multiple states, where you have major power grid failures in many, many states because the power grids often are run on fossil fuels and they can overheat and shut down. And then you just lose electricity.
or you just have so much capacity available. And when you have an event like 105 degrees in New York City and every single person is running their air conditioner at full blast, that's just more than what the power grid is designed to be able to do because most of the time it doesn't need to reach anywhere near that demand. But
Well,
to clarify, like what Mom Donnie tweeted out was hey, here's a helpful recommendation to try and like keep things running smoothly. I know that it's not the most convenient like request, but if you can do it, it'll help out. And is it against the law? No. Like, is there a law about this? No. It's just a hey, being mindful. If you can, this would be helpful.
well, again, I was surprised. I've heard it was a mandate, and it wasn't.
It's not a it was not a mandate.
That's what I just said. It wasn't. So, but I was surprised to have heard that. So that's interesting. But I will tell you one thing: the, I have a couple of thermostats in my house for different areas. One of the thermostats I have keeps going on economy mode, and I've tried to set a schedule so it never goes on economy mode. Uh, when
This
I
is
got
why you
home,
shouldn't have smart shit.
well, also, if the government is actually going to mandate this and they can check and everything's connected to Wi-Fi, you are screwed. But um,
Yeah.
the
I've
house
got a
was
thermostat that's dumb as shit. I press a button and it changes the temperature, and like it's not connected to anything besides the AC unit. Like
well,
there's no Wi-Fi, no bullshit. It just reads the temperature, and if it's above a certain amount, it turns on. If it's below amount, it turns off.
well,
Like
the house had set itself to 87 degrees. I don't
that's
know.
absurd.
I don't know why it just took this into account. It was very strange. It felt to me like the house was trying to kill me when I got home. So that was not cool. The house, I'm in the basement. I have the fan on. It's very. I did a workout in the basement, and it's nice and cool in the basement. But the upper floors in this house are quite warm. So what else do we have today to talk about bourbon? What was your? Let me ask you a question. What was the first whiskey you ever had?
Probably Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels for me was always this kind of American whiskey, and that's a bourbon, right?
I don't believe it is actually.
I think there's like so. I think that it's considered a bourbon, but it doesn't actually fit the bourbon like
It is it,
51%
it is
corn, something like
bourbon
that.
like the flavor profile and everything is bourbon, but there are legal definitions because like bourbon is a regulated beverage in the United States.
Yeah.
And so Jack Daniels does not fit the legal definition of bourbon. So it can't be called. That's why if you look at like a bottle of Jack Daniels, it will not say bourbon.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so that's actually somewhere along. I thought there was a little controversy there. So yeah, Jack Daniels is the first whiskey I believe that I had also, and um, and yeah, but there was also that like, I feel like there was always this like black velvet
Black
uh
Velvet's Canadian whiskey.
or what is the grouse famous grouse something like that.
Famous
There was
Grouse, I feel, is a blended Scotch.
as well. Hear me out though. As kids, there was always like at somebody's parents' house, there was always a bottle of this kind of really crappy whiskey, and it was always like a Black Velvet or a Famous Grouse or something like that. It was just kind of always in the back of the cabinet somewhere. Nobody ever drank it, and we always would end up getting into that. And to me, growing up, whiskey was just kind of one of the grossest drinks out there. And then around like 21, I started drinking Jack Daniels and Diet Coke. That seemed like an easy drink to order at a bar. The bartenders wouldn't be pissed to have to make you a cocktail. It was simple enough. The alcohol was mitigated um, by the diet soda. So you got low sugar, high alcohol, um, and I used to get them in pint glasses. I don't remember where I went when I was in my early 20s, but we would get a double in a pint glass, and those things were strong, my friend. And double Jack and Diet was the
Well,
order.
um, I remember when you were big on Jack Daniels, and one day we decided to do a blind taste test at the
Oh yes,
apartment,
yes.
and both of us tried Evan Williams, just Evan Williams Black Label, the
Mhm.
standard stuff that
What
you've
I have,
got on
what I
your
have here. Yep.
right. And we compared that against just garden variety Jack Daniels, and both of us would we'd leave the room. We'd pour like the other guy would pour two
You
shots,
and
and we're
I
like, I
love
don't know which one it is. You tell
you
me
and I
which you.
love doing this. By the way, you and I
Yeah.
love doing these taste tests.
Oh, that was one of the best experiments we ever read. And so you're just like, all right, take sip one, sip two. Which one do you think is better? Okay, I like one better. And then we would change roles, and I would, and so if you tried it first, and I would go and try it the second, and both of us ranked Evan Williams as tasting better than Jack Daniels, having no knowledge of which drink we were drinking. And I remember what you said to me afterwards was, you just saved me like $20 a bottle.
That is true. Evan Williams, and again, this Evan Williams is not my go-to whiskey for drinking whiskey by any means. I've probably got 30, 40 bottles of whiskey here. It's not my go-to. However, if I'm mixing a whiskey with if I'm drinking a good spirit, I generally just want that spirit neat or on like a rock or something just to get a little bit of water in there. I'd like a cold drink because I'm unsophisticated. Um, but but I like to just have that spirit. I like to taste the spirit. Evan Williams is doesn't do it for me, unfortunately, in that respect. But when I mix anything with a whiskey or a bourbon, this is my go-to. And I mean, we've got.
Have you tried Evan Williams single barrel?
I don't know. It was there tonight. I was so pissed because I couldn't find the 250th anniversary bottle, so I just grabbed this one. I grabbed a bunch
But
of other
why
handles.
didn't you get the single barrel?
Actually, you know what? They did not have that. They didn't
They
have
didn't
that.
have the
No, they
this
did
is
not
not
have. They did not
because
have the single barrel. They
all
had
right.
some other specialty bottle, and I just got pissed because I was looking. I was looking for that, and I was looking for the 250, and I couldn't find that one.
Yeah, so the 250 is hard to find. I found it online, but I haven't found it anywhere else. But the Evan Williams single barrel is not that hard to find. And so I paid $40 for this bottle, whereas if I were to get a 750 of just regular Evan Williams, it would be like 15, you know? But the Evan Williams single barrel stacks up to anything else at its price point. Like if you're spending $40 for a bottle of bourbon, I
Yeah.
challenge you to find something better than Evan Williams.
So here's the thing about drinking alcohol, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like that," and then stay away from the whole lineup of the bottles. The thing is that these different manufacturers and different producers, they have a series of different drinks. So I drink Dewar's, not so much these days, but I used to go through a handle of it a week in my office. But I was entertaining guests, and I was drinking pretty regularly. Dewar's is by no means my favorite Scotch at all. In fact, I pack a glass with ice and pour it over the ice and just let it melt. And I'll drink a very watered down ice cold Dewar's. Um, and so I've always I drink a lot of it, but I've always kind of held a lower esteem for Dewar's. I recently had a family member bring over a bottle of Dewar's 18, and I think it was Father's Day weekend, and I'd had it once or twice before. Phenomenal. The Dewar's 18 was actually,
Well,
it had this depth and complexity and just layers of flavors. Um, and
Even like the Dewar's Rare cask, like the Dewar's like
that's what I heard.
Caribbean cask.
That's what I've got: Japanese, French, and the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
so those are genuinely good.
Yeah,
Like Dewar's White Label, nothing special, but like any of the specialty products of Dewar's are quite good.
it's so what I'm telling people to do is if you've been turned off the spirit, don't get turned off of the brand entirely. Understand that certain companies have this entry level thing that's meant to be mixed. It's not a high end bottle, but it's one of those ones that is just kind of mixed with fruit punch at parties or something like that.
Well,
This is that. When I do an old fashioned, I throw in a lot of bitters, and I usually throw something else sweet in there. For me, it's usually like a half a teaspoon of Campari or something like that. Nobody can taste the Campari, but it ends up being a really good.
well, think about
Really,
it like this, right? So imagine you're a company like Evan Williams, right? And you've got a warehouse full of hundreds or really thousands of barrels of bourbon that are aging, right? Now, when the barrel is done aging, like the master distiller, like the people that are really good at taste testing these things
mm-hmm,
are going to take a sample of every single barrel that's popped, right?
mm-hmm.
And they're going to give it a grade. And the barrels that get the highest grade, because there are only so many things that you control for when it comes to like distilling booze.
I have
And
something on this topic I
especially
want to add, but I'm curious where you're going with this.
and sometimes there might be a defect with the barrel, or sometimes the barrel might have some special qualities that like impart extra flavor to something. But you're taste testing every single one of these barrels and you're grading it. And so like if you've got a barrel that's got like an A or an A plus grade, it might go into a bottle like this. If you've got a barrel that's like a B grade, it might go into like a mix with like the C and D grades to bring them up, because you've got Evan Williams green label, you've got Evan Williams black label and white label.
Which
And
each
so
have which each have a distinct flavor that sits on the
and
side.
a different price point
Well,
and a
yes,
different proof. So like you've got like your job as a master distiller is to say like we need to send out a consistent product, but like every barrel is going to be slightly different. So we have to mix the green label, and the green label is cheaper than all the others. So the green label might be like the C and D barrels, and we're just like, well, we can sell this or something, whatever. And then like the C and B barrels are the black label. Like the B, C, and A barrels would be white label, and then like the A and A plus are what goes into like the single barrel or some of their other vintages. And so, like, just because you've had, and this is true, like Johnny Walker
well,
is,
I was going to say that you turned me on to the red label. I ordered a black label the other day, just neat. And the bartender said, "Well, we have this and this," and I was like, "Well, I'll go black." And then I saw the red label, so I had the black, which is my go-to is a double black, but I had the black, and then I saw the red, and I was like, "Oh, James brought this bottle of red. It was a little smokier than the black." Next one I got was a red, and I was like, "All right, this is my drink for the rest of the night." I prefer the double black to the red, but the red is really good. The red
so
is really
the
good.
double black is going to cost you double what the red costs
Well,
you.
the double black is much more expensive, correct?
Yeah. And so Johnny Walker Red is actually phenomenal for its price and everything, but it's because it's so smooth and drinkable. But Johnny Walker, like again, Johnny Walker is a blend of God knows how many number of different scotches, and their job is they have an idea as to what their red, their black, whatever color they're assigning it. They've got an idea as to what flavor they want, so they'll just buy barrels from all sorts of distillers across Scotland and mix what they get to achieve a certain flavor
So
profile.
Johnny Walker does not actually make their own scotch. They take
No,
barrels from other distilleries and blend them. Evan Williams makes their own scotch.
their own bourbon.
I'm sorry, their own bourbon, and they blend them. So what I was going to say a minute ago, actually, I wanted to add my favorite way to enjoy a whiskey. If you think whiskey is too strong, but you want to get a little alcohol in your system, but you drink it slow because it's strong. So if you're drinking whiskey, what I like to do is just have, especially if you're drinking it neat, little sip of the whiskey, and then chase it with the beer.
That's kind of what I'm doing. Um,
So, but
but
here's what I wanted to add. Are you finished, or can I?
I want to talk about just how good the people that taste test booze are.
Okay, give me a second, because I feel like that'll be a good addition to what I'm about to say, and that is what we feel. I mean, I actually do appreciate this, because I watched like a Discovery Channel thing about this, but most people never think about when they try a product, and I'm not talking about something that is ultra processed like Triscuits or something like that. I'm talking about something that is actually farmed, and it's maybe processed but not ultra processed, and that is consistency of flavor. So if you think about something like Tabasco, you open a bottle of Tabasco 10 years ago, you open a bottle of Tabasco today, providing it's not the same bottle, the viscosity, the flavor profile, the color is going to be exactly alike. Yet you were 600 million peppers away. So when you're having a bottle of whiskey and it tastes exactly like the bottle of whiskey you had before, and it's got the same label on it, that's really impressive, because they are blending multiple barrels on barrels and barrels together. So something that distilleries can actually get away with a single barrel whiskey is the flavor can be different than the flavor of a single barrel two
That's
years.
the appeal to a
The
degree.
appeal is that it has this unique. So not always is a single barrel better. Typically it is, and you're going to talk about a sommelier and a taste tester. But I just think it's very impressive that a Johnny Walker Double Black to a Johnny Walker Double Black, or Johnny Walker Red to a Red, or an Evan Williams to an Evan Williams, just bottle per bottle over the course of. And by the way, things do change, like these bottles of Beefeater I have, which 2 years apart have changed the proof in each of
Yeah,
them.
well, I
The
mean
flavor has slightly changed,
that's a business decision that they've made.
and they did change it, but most companies don't actually do that, and that's a ballsy move to drop yourself
Well,
3 proof or whatever that was.
well,
So
I have a theory as to why they did that, but
why is that?
um, water is cheaper than grain alcohol.
Very possibly. They
But
say it's to appeal to the palate of
yeah,
Americans. But
but
that's their rationale.
I think about the owner of Sam Adams a long time ago was asked about beers like Budweiser and Bud Light, right? And this was at a time when like this was before like the whole craft beer revolution stuff, where like Sam Adams was really like the only like real high quality beer that you could find commonly.
Oh, we got it here on tap.
Um, like where like Sam Adams kind of like opened the door to all these breweries and everything like that.
Very
And
true.
he was giving an interview, and the interviewer asked him like what he thought about like a beer like Bud Light, right?
Hmm.
And what he said was the thing that's really impressive about Bud Light is you go to anywhere in the country, you can get a Bud Light and it will taste exactly the same. They're making millions and millions of gallons of this beer, and every single batch is the exact same. Like,
You can't even say the same about Coca Cola, by the way.
no,
Coca Cola's flavor changes depending on where you are.
right. So he's like, I'm not saying that I like the flavor of it or that I think it's a good beer, but the fact that they're able to maintain perfect consistency wherever you go, you have to recognize that there's something to their process that's doing something right.
I,
Now,
I mean,
here's the story about how good taste testers are. Remember the show Mythbusters?
hmm
So they did an episode, and the myth that they were busting was that the only difference between like a super cheap vodka and a premium vodka was filtering.
this is not where I thought you were going with that. Okay. Because
And
they say
so,
what you can do is you can just filter a vodka. You can take a really cheap vodka like a Georgie, and then filter it 5 times, and it will taste like a Kettle One or
right.
a Grey Goose.
So that's exactly the myth is like you can buy the cheapest vodka in the store. And if you filter it through like a Brita filter enough times, it'll be just as good as a premium vodka like a Kettle One, right? So how did they test this myth? Well, very easily. They bought some top shelf vodka and they bought some bottom shelf vodka. And then what they did is they did like bottom shelf and then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where like they would filter it once through like a Brita filter, and then twice through a Brita filter, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5, right?
yeah, that's fine, yeah.
And then they would take whatever like the top shelf vodka was, right? So
Mhm.
there's 7 options available, and they brought in a professional taste tester,
Okay.
and they said, rate these vodkas, and then they're like, and then they even told them, they said, we're not going to tell you which one is which, but we're going to tell you what we did. You've got the cheapest one, you've got the expensive one, and then we filtered 5 times in between, right? And they had the taste tester. They said, we want you, just on taste alone, to order these vodkas in terms of quality, and we also want you to guess which one is like the unfiltered cheapo and everything else, right?
Mhm.
And this guy on the first try got unfiltered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the premium, all in the right place.
That is really impressive. That is but I would also imagine that filtering removes a lot of the flavor. You know, if
Well,
you
this is why it's so impressive. What's the thing about vodka?
well, supposedly that it doesn't have a flavor.
Right. So the fact that you've got the cheapo vodka that because it's cheap might have some impurities that impart some bad flavors to it, right? And then you progressively filter it more and more, and you're removing some of those impurities so that you're getting to a more pure just ethanol and water
Yeah.
result.
I was just gonna say it's
But
basically straight
but
ethanol.
what was impressive to me was he's like, here's the cheapo. You filtered it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, and here's the premium vodka, and I could taste the difference of the premium vodka versus even 5 times filtered to the cheapo.
Yeah, I have to say I think that is very impressive. We need to do more taste tests. You know, when I was in seventh grade, I tried to do a report in our not health class. What was the one where you learned? What's the class where you learned to cook? Do you remember?
Home ec, I didn't take that class.
Home ec. Home ec. We learned to knit. We learned to cook. Did a bunch of reports. I wanted to do a taste test between Pepsi and Coca Cola. And so I brought in Pepsi, I brought in Coca Cola, I brought in 3 cups for everybody. And what I wanted to do was give somebody a Pepsi and taste it, and then give them the 2 other cups and see if they could match it, which I thought made sense to me to see if you can match it. And you know, presumably they taste different, so you're going to taste the one. But I wanted to see how many people couldn't tell the difference. The teacher wouldn't allow me to give the one and label it. I couldn't give them the labeled one, and they just had to tell which was which I thought was really.
Actually, I think that's fair because you can say, "Hey, I'm not going to tell you if this is Pepsi or Coke, but I'm going to give you."
But then you have to tell me which is which.
No, no,
I'm,
no. It's what I'm going to say is
well, you
like,
can tell me what you like better. That's an
no,
option.
no, no, no. It's I'm going to give you either Pepsi or Coke. Then I'm going to give you 2 other glasses, one of which is Pepsi and one of which is Coke, and you need to tell me whether the first was the
Well,
first or the second.
all I'm saying is you have to have an A and then a B and a C. She just wanted to have a B and a C. And so but you had to have already come to the table with a knowledge of what each tastes like. And that was my argument. I just remember getting this big argument and just being like, all right, it's not worth it. We'll just do it your way. My entire like scientific procedure has been ruined by your opinion on this matter.
Um, I actually think so. And this was in like the '90s. Pepsi ran a commercial where they
Oh,
had people
Pepsi,
do,
Pepsi had some great commercials in the 80s and 90s.
but they had a commercial where they did blind taste tests and had people choose whether they like Pepsi or Coke better. And like, and this was actually like validated. Like the studies that Pepsi did were real, where people preferred Pepsi by a slight margin over Coke.
Mm-hmm.
And so they made a whole big deal about that because if you're advertising, why wouldn't you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually really interesting because like Pepsi is sweeter than Coke.
Mm-hmm.
And so on a blind taste test where you're only taking like a 1 ounce sip and that's it, like people prefer the sweeter drink.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're drinking a larger amount, then like the sweetness starts to count against it after a certain point. And
That's
so like
y-
it's it's a subtle difference, but like people, if you're drinking a larger amount of something, people start to prefer Coke more to Pepsi. But
but
because Pepsi
the study
designed the
didn't come.
experiment in
Yeah,
a specific way, they got
yeah.
the result they wanted, and it wasn't dishonest, but it was kind
Well,
of.
so I'll give you two things, and the second is my favorite Pepsi commercial ever. But what I would say similar to drinking something that's too sweet. So I love a porter beer. The thing is, I can't drink a pint of a porter beer. It's too heavy. It's too sweet. It's almost like drinking a syrup. I could do a small glass. I could do maybe like a half a pint at most. But you know, a really heavy beer for me is not enjoyable. I like having a sip of it. It tastes great, but you know, just
There's just too much to it.
like you know, when I was a kid and I used to make like Nesquik or Ovaltine or something, I'd fill like 2/3 of the glass up and just top it off with milk, and just you're basically drinking syrup. As an adult, that would make me nauseous. I could have a sip of it and say that's really good, but I couldn't finish it. So I'll give you the my favorite Pepsi commercial, and that is the Pepsi commercial where Pepsi acknowledged they said Coca-Cola says they sell uh, twice as many cans of soda a year. We agree with them. And then there's this kid that walks over to a soda machine and he buys a Coca Cola, comes out, takes it, buys another Coca Cola, comes out, takes it. And then he walks like down the street to a Pepsi machine, sets the two Coca Colas on the ground, steps on them so he can now reach the Pepsi button and orders a Pepsi. And then he leaves the Coca Colas there, walks away, opens his Pepsi, and goes,
Yeah, it's still a stupid ad because like,
it's
why not just
brilliant
design
marketing.
machines so kids can reach the Pepsi button?
It's just brilliant marketing. You know, I
Well,
think,
yeah,
and the vendors, I've wanted to. I don't want to get into vending machines, but I do want to buy a couple of vending machines just to put in places that I go to frequently, so I can put shit in them that I want to. I don't want like
why
pop
not
cards
just bring the shit that you want with you?
because I'm not going to go shopping at Costco and just you know bring 12 protein bars with me regularly. You know, I want to have
But you can.
I could, but I don't. So if I went to Costco once a month and just stocked the fucking vending machine with some light beer and some protein bars, I'd be a happy dude. So in my office, I'd like to get a vending machine and stock it with some stuff, so I can just have that crap when I want to have it. And if other people wanted to, I'd make some money on it, which would be oh maybe that's the reason I don't want to just go to Costco and buy this stuff. So what else do we have on Evan Williams and bourbon? Because I think of bourbon as part of the American like culture. People don't. I don't know that anybody drinks bourbon in any other part of the world the way that we do in America.
Bourbon can't be made anywhere else in the world.
It can be made by a drink,
Huh?
just like tequila or champagne or different wines. But I said drink. They don't drink it to the extent that we do in any other part of the world.
Well, probably not, but
Have you heard there was a one of these places went up in flames? One of these big warehouses of whiskey barrels went up in flames a few years ago. Maybe like in the last decade. That is some scary shit because that's just rocket fuel, you know, under pressure waiting to freaking blow. And you are losing decades and decades of storage. And some of these are very premium bottles. You know, I assume they have insurance. I hope maybe that's why they
no, they absolutely have insurance.
yeah. But maybe that's why they caught on fire. Who knows? What am I missing on bourbon before we wrap up here? I mean, we got to enjoy a little cocktail. We had some mint. What do you have going on for the 4th of July?
I am going to Philadelphia.
Oh, you said that. You said that. You have to tell me a little bit about that after we wrap up the cast. Um,
I mean,
all right,
I'll talk a little bit about it now.
all right, go for it.
Um, yeah, I've got a friend up in Philadelphia, flying in tomorrow afternoon, and it's going to be ridiculously hot,
That
just
it
like it
is.
is up for you. But
The thing when you get on the airplane, when you get off the airplane, this has happened to me a bunch of times. A few recent flights, they don't turn the AC on, so you got like 120 people on a plane, no fucking AC. Or however, it depends on the size of the plane. It's not even a very big plane. A whole bunch of people on a plane though, no AC's going. That's insane to me.
I don't really care about that. Like I'm expected to be uncomfortable from like start to until I get to my friend's place. I'm just going to be uncomfortable. That's just how flying is. But um,
After flying, are you the person that like gets in the shower? Are you a shower person after the flight?
often, yes.
And you change your clothes after the flight too?
If I'm taking a shower, I'm very likely changing clothes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people change their clothes because they feel kind of gross about sitting on the seats, which are
I
full
don't
of
care
dirt.
about that. It's like
Yeah.
I've been walking around. I've been in, like especially landing at 105-degree Philadelphia. By the time I get to my friend's place, like I'm gonna sweat through everything, and so like whatever clothes I wear to the airport in Charleston tomorrow, like those are gonna be expendable by the time like I land in.
Look, I get it. Second I got home today, I went up and I turned the shower on, and I was a little frustrated because it takes a little while to warm up. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck this. It's hot as hell. I'm just getting in the cold shower, and I took a cold shower. Um, and then I just went and I changed into a second pair of clothes for the day.
But no, I've got a friend in Philadelphia, and like I think Philadelphia actually is a pretty good city to pick for Fourth of July celebrations.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
And there's also going to be a World Cup game that is hosted by Philadelphia on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to go, but each ticket's like $1,500.
Also, you may not enjoy. It's gonna be really really crowded, and
I
that
don't even care
is
about that. Like,
that makes it tough.
no, I don't even care about that. I would go. It's going to be France versus Paraguay, which is an interesting matchup. France has been playing really well. Um, but it's just I cannot, because like I can't just buy one ticket and tell my friend like, yeah, have fun while I go to the World Cup match, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so looking at, let's say, actually the cheapest ticket I saw yesterday was like $900. So let's call it like $2,000 all in.
Yeah.
That's way too much to spend to go to a soccer game.
So Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia,
It was.
and you're going to be there for the 250th birthday. I actually thought 2026 was going to be a much bigger year celebrating the 250th anniversary.
Oh,
Uh,
you know how to thank for that.
well, I thought it was going to be much bigger and more bombastic because of Mr. America. I mean, Trump, who believes he's Mr. America. Uh, I just thought that he was going to really turn it into this big thing. And I wonder if maybe he had a plan to do that, and his advisors told him not to
No,
because of his approval rating.
no, no,
Or
no. It's dumber than that. Have you seen the images from the Great American State Fair?
no, I don't even know what that is.
So it's this event that they've been holding in DC in the National Mall, right?
Hmm.
And prior to like the 2024 election, there had been a whole bunch of money that was appropriated for like America 250th anniversary celebrations across a whole bunch of different federal agencies, right?
Hmm.
And so what like Trump basically like just like took all that money and like sent it to a whole bunch of like his political donors and friends and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so like if you look when we finish this cast or maybe like when we're off air or something, I really want you to look at images of like this Great American State Fair because you've got like this massive event space, and at times there like you can see some of the shows where like the performers outnumber the people that are watching
So
because
here's the thing about funding, and I wish I could find it. I wish I could cite it correctly, but I saw this something on Twitter the other day, and they were talking about like Afghanistan or some third world country, and the headline was like, "We need $2 million to end hunger here," and then on the bottom half of the meme was 200, $200 billion later, and then it was the same picture with the crumbled buildings, the starving people, and like a dozen Range Rovers. It's like just complete misappropriation, complete
but
ripoff.
like the thing is I think because Trump chose to make the America 250 thing about him because of course he did,
Yeah,
it turned off so many people to
yeah.
wanting to celebrate it in the way that it probably should be celebrated. And so that's why like I'm really happy to be going to Philadelphia, as I think that that city is going to do a really good job,
Interesting. All right. Well, look,
and we'll find out. Like I'll be there. Like
let's wrap up. We can recap next week. I want to thank people for joining us for the Evan Williams episode. That was a interesting interesting episode because it's such a low end, cheap, very attainable bottle to get. I mean, I have a 1.5 liter here, 1.75.
get the
Um,
get the single barrel.
well, I think next time I'll experiment, get a little higher level bottle, or you can bring one as a gift when you visit. But I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for joining, James. We can hang